Justin Giddings here, the Kickstarter guy. Thank you for joining me for another video in this series of 30 crowdfunding training videos in 30 days. I'm actually surprised I got through that without stumbling over it, because I stumble over that title every day. Probably a good piece of information then, that it's not the best title. I'll figure something out. All right, so what I wanted to talk to you about today is getting negative feedback. What do you do when somebody writes you a nasty little response or email when it comes to your crowdfunding? Also, think about it this way. What do you do when somebody writes you a nasty response about anything? When you've got a new film out, when people leave crappy comments on your trailer on YouTube, right? So like, if you're going to be an artist and you're going to put yourself out there, sorry, part of that cost is that people are going to be jerks and they're going to respond to you and be jerks about it. Now, obviously, I'm going to kind of talk about this through the lens of crowdfunding, but again, I think this is one of those times where you can take some of the principles of this and apply it to other areas, comments on YouTube, whatever that is, okay? But I had a client last week get a nasty email, and so I kind of walked her through these pieces, and I figured I'd share with you. All right, so the first thing is, like, check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? Like, are you doing everything you should be doing? Are you doing it in a respectful way? Are you sending out personalized messages? Are you using the apps, the apps, in order to get your content upgraded? Are you personalizing your outreach in terms of like hi first name and actually writing that out or customizing that? Yes, that work is more tedious. Of course, it's harder to be more custom and personal. But when it comes to your actual network, the network you've got access to, friends, family, social media following, that kind of stuff, they are in your network because you have some sort of relationship, and I believe that relationship is valuable enough that it's worth doing that extra little work in order to reach out to them appropriately, right? So the first thing is just make sure that you are putting out good quality posts and that you're doing everything you can reasonably to be a good citizen of the internet in terms of your outreach and all that kind of stuff. You know, if you're spamming people newsletters every day, yeah, you're going to get people yelling at you. But if you're sending out one newsletter a week and it's pointed and it's specific and it's about that week's event, and it's not just some other, you know, whiny, we need your help, please help us, oh my gosh, we have a thing in case you've forgotten, which they have an email. As long as you if you're just doing one a week and it's that high quality thing, it's kind of like, really, like, this elicited a negative response. Like, you can kind of be like, well, it ain't me anymore, right? Okay, so that's the first piece. The second piece is, of course, just like a logistical one. Remove them from your outreach. If they complain about how much you're posting or they complain about your emails, here's a little trick. Be super, super nice, take care of them completely, and I bet you about a quarter of them actually end up contributing to your campaign. So if you get a Facebook that's like, man, you're posting too much, I see so much stuff everywhere and all that kind of stuff, be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I've got this thing, you know, it's hugely important to me, I know there's a lot of content going out. Facebook's algorithm doesn't really show it to a lot of people unless you're sort of in my circle, so you must be seeing a lot of my stuff. And I apologize about that. Here's an article, a link to an article, and you can Google this, like how to snooze somebody for 30 days in your timeline, right? Like, help them, like, literally, here's how you get rid of me. And what will happen is people are expecting either defensiveness or being ignored, or some sort of, like, again, defensiveness of like, well, here's why I'm doing it, and you should be blah, blah, blah. But if you actually respond just being like, oh man, that totally sucks, that's not the intention, I'm putting out a lot of content, again, algorithmically, and for algorithmic reasons, here's how you get rid of me so that you don't have to experience all this for the next 30 days. And here's a little link to a little article that tells you how to, it's called snoozing somebody on your timeline. That's just a completely different narrative than what they expected. You might still get some crankiness as a response to that, but at the very least, like, you've done exactly, like, what more could you do? And because you responded in a nice, kind, professional way that was actually trying to help them, many of them will turn around and be like, look, man, it's cool, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, I throw in a contribution, it's just too much content, so I'm just going to snooze it, right? And they actually can sometimes get apologetic and that kind of stuff. So it's not about manipulating them, it's just by having that authentic response of like, oh man, that's a bummer, here's how you can get rid of that. People go, oh, I guess you're not just some spamming butthead. You're just somebody trying to do the best that you can do about something that you're passionate about. Maybe I overreacted. Here's some money and I'll make you go away for 30 days. Happens a lot, okay? Now, the other thing that I did with my client was like, let's reframe this whole idea, right? Because a lot of times when a client gets a negative piece of feedback, especially if it's really personal, I mean, this is true about our artistry as well. You throw something out there when somebody's just like mean for some reason, it can hurt. Like, let's start there. Let's validate the fact like that can suck and be emotionally painful and suck. But let's reframe this in our heads, right? So we've gone through the grieving process. Now let's really think about it. Somebody sending you a negative thing, negative message, is them seeing your content, having a reaction to it. That's step one. But then step two, actually reaching out and being like, I don't like this, or I don't like you. Okay. So we already know, if you've listened to my previous videos, the tiny infinitesimal percentages of people who see your content and actually click through to watch. So your stuff's going to be seen by tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. So let's just start there. For a $20,000 campaign, you're going to be seen by about 200,000 people if you're doing your job right? So if you get 10 messages, which by the way never happens. My clients, when it happens, which is rare, every couple months, it's like 1 or 2 messages maybe. And sometimes it's because they're not doing their job right, so we fix it. But 1 or 2 messages out of 200,000 people who have seen your content is a really, 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 really tiny percentage. And compare that to the fact that you will have dozens, if not hundreds of backers. Now, what's harder? I don't like this thing. Send. Or, wow, this is really cool. Here's $50. My clients average $50 to $100. If you do everything I'm trying to train you on, especially if we end up working together in some capacity, you'll have a $50 to $100 backer average. So that means that, okay, 2 people wrote you something nasty, but dozens, if not hundreds of people saw your stuff, may not even know you, pulled out their wallet and said, here's $50 to $100 on average. For something that they're probably going to get to see. Again, most of my clients are filmmakers, so I'll speak to you guys, or even my game designers, right? Like if they're buying a game at retail, they're probably spending $20-30, right? And with film, if it's a short film or web series, they're going to see it for free on Vimeo in 6 months, or YouTube. And even a feature film at the ArcLight, or I'll say AMC cinemas where you can eat dinner and stuff, at most you're paying $30 for a ticket, right? So like, they're giving you so much more money for something that actually doesn't really cost a lot in order to support your creative vision and dreams, which for many of my clients, when they're doing this at the beginning of their project, they've got no proof that any of this is going to happen. In other words, people are just basically voting like, yes, that sounds like a good idea. Yes, I believe that you have the passion and drive to actually make it happen. Here's $50 to $100. That should mean so much more to you than the one person who's like, I don't like how much you post, right? Yes, that hurts. Our brains are designed to protect ourselves, and we see the negative as potential threats far quicker than we see things when happy things are happening. This is all biology and neurochemistry, but you have to actively work against that so that you don't become despondent in the middle of your campaign when it gets tough, when it gets hard. And if somebody comes along and kicks you while you're down, okay, it hurts, it stings, but you got to get back up. And one of the ways you get back up is just reframing it and going, wow, okay, you're an a-hole, but 300 people have said, yes, I'm in. I support you. Here's my hard-earned money, way overpriced than what the actual thing is in the end that I'm going to be getting. All right, the final piece is just to view it as data. Okay, so somebody's responded to you. What does that mean? It often just means that that person has their own particular set of stories and beliefs about crowdfunding, or how movies should get made, or how one should or shouldn't do something. They just want to should all over you. Just shoulding here, taking a big should all over your head. Or they have stories and beliefs about you as a person, frankly. There was this director that I was on a show as an actor, a TV show, I was a series regular, so I was working with the crew for weeks. And somebody who was like an assistant editor or something, like, I don't know, somehow, I don't know if they said something to me and I didn't respond. To this day, I have no idea what happened, but I found out later when this person was directing something and I was up for it, that they were like, I will never work with this guy. He's such a jerk. Like me, talking about me, how I'm such this big, terrible, awful jerk person. Some interaction gave this person the idea that I'm this arrogant a-hole that is difficult to work. I really don't know what it is. But that just kind of goes to show that, like, anybody who does know me knows that I'm like this super upbeat, nice, positive guy who's trying to make things happen, and this like creative artist soul guy. And so somehow their story about me, they made up, they took that information, maybe some slight something that I don't even remember, and turned it into a big giant thing. I can't be held responsible for that. In fact, in that particular case, I worked really, really hard to actually reach out to that person and repair whatever it was that happened, and it kind of never really happened, like was never really received well. Another thing to think about, though, when it comes to like this data, maybe they're just not people you need in your life anymore. And I don't mean like they didn't contribute to your campaign, so you should drop them as friends. I don't mean that at all. What I mean is that through our life experiences, particularly with social media and the ease and ubiquitousness of it, it's easy to kind of collect people and contacts that may or may not be on your team or in your tribe. I'll tell a story about a friend. I got to make sure I don't reveal any personal details, but basically this friend was doing crowdfunding campaign with me, and had a college roommate. That the college roommate had somehow, again, like had this story that my friend had stolen his girlfriend from him, who was then his wife at that point. Except that like the wife, the woman in that college roommate had never actually dated or anything. And so my friend got this like, pages email about whatever. And he called me and he was really upset when we started talking about it. And it was just like, you know what, dude, this guy has kind of hated you for 10 years and has blamed you for this thing that isn't real and hasn't happened. Like, you just got on his bad side immediately. He was like, yeah, I was pretty messy roommate. Like, his crap was everywhere, I guess, right? So, so this person, like, has never really been kind to you, has always brought a lot of toxicity into your life. You're seeing it happen again. Maybe it's time then to just unfriend them on Facebook and not have them in your world anymore. And I think that's an empowering thing. Take this opportunity to sort of curate the tribe around you. You show me your friends, you show me your future. Like, I really believe that. I try to surround myself by positive people who are making things happen. That's the dirty secret about crowdfund coaching. I get to be around these ambitious, self-starting filmmakers who are super creative and trying to make new, diverse content all day long. That's my life. It's awesome, right? So, like, be thoughtful about the people who are coming in. And if somebody already in the circle ends up, I mean, really, like, seriously, why send you a message that is going to tear you down a couple notches? If you're doing your job well and just trying, you're just trying hard, like, who cares? Just ignore it. Do what 95% of everybody who's seeing your content is going to do, which is ignore it. Maybe they like it. Maybe they don't like it. You don't know because they ignore it. They have a life. They have other things to do than write nasty emails. So the ones that have been like, I'm really going to take this moment now to knock you down a couple notches, maybe that's not somebody you really need to have in your world anymore. Or maybe you don't need them in your world in the way they currently are. So maybe they're a great offline friend that you hook up with every once in a while at reunions, but you don't engage with them on social media because they turn into little toxic trolls. It happens. All right. So I hope this helps. Crowdfunding is hard. If you don't think it is, you've missed something. I guess all I can say. Crowdfunding is hard, and it's definitely made harder when people take the time to knock you down. But you got to start changing that story about what that actually means. If you take it as a personal proof that the story you've been telling yourself, which is that crowdfunding is gross and yucky and bad, is now true because some random person gave you crap, I'm challenging that story right now because you're forgetting the hundreds of people who voted yes for you. And again, the data and everything that I just said. So why am I repeating the video? So rewatch the video if you want to know. All right. Thank you for being with me for another day. This is, I believe, day 17's video. We're more than halfway done with 30 crowdfunding training videos in 30 days. If you're listening to this on my new podcast, Greenlight Yourself, Creative Crowdfunding for Filmmakers, or if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, please reach out, leave comments, or shoot me an email, justin@thekickstarterguy.com, and I will try to cover content that you find important and want to know about and care about. All right? Cool. All right. Peace. Bye.